This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper Goren Holm or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever.
Boom! We are live. Welcome everyone to episode, what did we say it was? Episode 6, which is actually episode 7 because we started at 0 of What the Block. Welcome, Cliff and Neil. We've got an exciting show today. Before we get started, actually, I want to throw up this little banner. We are live right now on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on the LA Blockchain Summit accounts, and you can participate live. So if you ask us questions, leave comments, things like that, we will see them and we can bring them on screen towards the end of the show and ask the guys. And then also subscribe there so that next time we're live, you can do it. You can also find this everywhere where you download podcasts. So this will be up later today there too. Cliff, Neil, welcome. How's it going, guys?
Awesome. Good to be here.
Thanks for joining me. So, actually, before we dive into Casper, I would love to hear your guys' backgrounds. I've known both of you guys for a while now, and we've been in this space for a bit. But for everyone else, why don't we start with you, Cliff? Give us your background and sort of what brought you into the blockchain space.
Well, my story is the typical Johannesburg, Irvine, Berkeley, Cambridge, San Francisco, Los Angeles story that you've heard thousands of times. I originally born in South Africa, grew up mostly in California, went to Berkeley for undergrad and did law school on the East Coast. And even in law school, knew that I wasn't meant to be a lawyer my whole life. And it took a few years of me accepting that and assuaging my Jewish mother that I didn't have to be a lawyer. Before joining my first startup, about 5 years out of law school, I was living in San Francisco. Hard not to get swept up in Silicon Valley, and I had an amazing first experience at the startup called VideoSurf. I loved the team. I loved the idea. We were doing something faster than Google could do it because we were more nimble, and then it didn't hurt that company got acquired by Microsoft after I was there for about a year. And I got to be a part of like an $80 million acquisition, and I thought this was really cool. And then the same venture capital firm that had invested in VideoSurf basically said, Cliff, you're going to join this other company and you're going to do the same thing there. And I kind of found a niche as like a startup business guy with a little bit of a legal background, and taking an idea, building a team, raising money, creating the structures for success for the team, and then eventually putting something new and cool in the world, and having a lot of fun in the process is kind of what I love to do. So how I found blockchain after my startup back in 2016. Kind of ran out of money and didn't quite make it to our Series A. I started to look around for what was next, and all everyone was talking about was Bitcoin and blockchain. This is the beginning of the 2017 kind of ICO cycle. And I took like 2 months out of my life and I devoured everything I could. I started with the Satoshi white paper, and I watched every Charles Hoskinson video and Alex Tapscott video, and very quickly became a true believer in the power of leaderless networks and distributed computing, and if you empower the network to help build it, it can be even bigger and greater than you as a central kind of company could ever imagine. And so I dove right in. My first foray in the space was at a place called DNA, which was both investing and advising ICO companies, and that's where Neil and I connected. And it was during my time there that I met the founding team of Casper. This is now the fall of 2018. And I jumped in full-time at Casper in January of 2019, so just over 2 years ago.
Awesome.
Gus
And
is getting
by the way, that's
serious
my
FaceTime right now.
That's Gus in the background.
Okay, Gus is now our first ever four-legged guest on this show, so that's pretty awesome. Really exciting. Yeah, I mean that's when I met you as well, Cliff. So it's been a few years, exciting few years to say the least. Neil, why don't you give us a little bit of your background before we dive into Casper?
Sure. My background's very typical to the blockchain space as well. You know, I was a restaurateur, then an accountant. So my background, traditional financial planning and analysis. I've done that for several startups based in New York. Fell into the blockchain space when I was working for an e-commerce marketplace as the head of operations and director of product. And just, initially as an investor in 2016 and 2017, really became obsessed with blockchain, just like Cliff, kind of fell down that rabbit hole and, was introduced to Scott Walker and Brock Pierce at DNA. That's where I met Cliff. And I joined DNA post like 2017 ICO craze. So what I was doing primarily was focusing on global brand awareness and post-fundraise companies, helping them kind of build their brand and establish an actual foothold in this space. And that's where I was introduced to Casper Labs. First, as an investor, I joined their friends and family round, and then was just a prominent advocate for the project in general. And they were like, hey, it's a seamless transition, similar. There was a little overlap in terms of founders, in terms of Casper Labs and DNA, Scott and Brock. So I joined Casper Labs, been on the team for about 2 years, heading up business development that encompasses everything from strategic partnerships, investor relations, working closely with the projects that are actually building on our network, as well as working closely with some of our enterprise partners as well.
So actually, I got to interject. The real story is that at DNA, Neil was doing all the work and I was getting all the credit. When I moved over to Casper and I had to do all the work and wasn't getting much credit, I'm like, Neil, you got to come over here because it was working way better before. So that's the real story.
That's true.
That's kind of like my partnership with Joseph. People are always asking why he doesn't do as many of these things, and it's because he's actually getting shit done. So
we had the pleasure of spending some time with him in Dubai when we were there last week, actually.
I'm jealous. He actually extended a little bit. He's still there for a couple more days, and it was actually a really fruitful trip. And I heard a lot of great things about you guys there, and lots of good stuff going on. So, yeah, well, going back to your guys' backgrounds, I think I think that's part of the amazing sort of things going on in this space, right? Like, because this space is so brand new, because this space is so, for lack of not actually lack of a better term, because it's actually very decentralized and distributed around the world, and also yes, we all do. We're all full time, because the space is just a bunch of misfits and weirdos and different people from all walks of life. There is no set path, right? Like, we all know, like in the VC world, a lot of times people ask me like, "Oh, what school did you go to? What did you do this?" And it's like, I went to school, but I didn't get an MBA or anything like that. And I was a terrible student, and I did my own thing. And I think that the funny thing is that, like, we're in this space where, a guy who was born in South Africa and came and got a law degree, and Neil, who you said is a restaurateur, and a dude who grew up in a shop whose family rebuilt auto parts, could all somehow come together and find a way to do business around the world, right? Like, and there isn't like he went to this school and got an MBA and with an emphasis in blockchain management or something, right? Like, that doesn't exist yet. It might happen soon, but I'm kind of hoping it stays a little weird.
It will. I mean, it's a nascent industry, but curriculums are occurring where, like, the next call me and Cliff have actually is with blockchain at Berkeley, right? They're establishing a lot of content and education around blockchain, but yeah, we're not there yet.
Well, and when I say that, I'm not like against those things. I think it's really important. Like, we support the Blockchain Acceleration Foundation, Cameron's group, and he's awesome. He was pushing that stuff for for years now, and I think it's really, really important because it's one path towards this. But the fact that we just made our first investment in India last week, and we've never had a set like this is we're only investing in LA or whatever, I think is really important. But let's dive into Casper. So there's today we see Ethereum, we see Bitcoin, we see even Tezos and different blockchains and things like that. Polkadot now has got all popular. What's sort of the unique value proposition for Casper, and why Casper? Why now? I know now is relative because you guys have been working on this for a long time, but why now? What's exciting now, and where's the value?
Yeah, Neil, I'll take the first, and then you're welcome to supplement. So I think what's amazing for me being a startup guy, usually a startup does like one or two major pivots, from what they originally started doing. And what's kind of amazing about Casper is the same problems that Mernal, our CEO, and other founders kind of said to me in my first conversation with them are still the problems that we're solving. We haven't really pivoted, so maybe that's a good place to start. And so there's really two, and given the whole ecosystem that you said, these are still like big holes in the ecosystem. So number one is either you call it the layer one trilemma of decentralization, scalability, and security, or you call it Ethereum scaling problem. What Ethereum has done incredibly well is two of those three legs of the stool. Incredibly well on decentralization. Anyone can join the network if you have a powerful enough, set of computers, but there's no permissioning. You don't have to apply to Ethereum. You can't sue Ethereum. Ethereum can't really go away. Like, they are decentralized, and it's amazing, and we love that about them. And it's also secure. Proof of work, which is the system that both Bitcoin and Ethereum operate on, has proven now over a decade to be incredibly secure. What Ethereum has come up against almost from its inception is not just TPS, but network latency and the costs associated with gas. And all those other chains that you mentioned, those other layer ones, whether it's EOS, Divinity, Algorand, etc., they've all tried to solve that trilemma or the Ethereum scaling problem by sacrificing one of the other two legs, sacrificing decentralization or security, and no chain has yet really solved it. Actually achieved scalability without sacrificing decentralization or security, and Ethereum is going to try to get there with Ethereum 3.0, but who knows how far away we are from there. With Ethereum, they have all these legacy challenges that prevent them from doing it quickly. And so what was proposed to me way back in late 2018 was, we don't have those legacy problems. Why don't we just raise some money, find the best developers in the world to join us, and build it in 2 years? It's taken 2.5, many, many years before Ethereum. So that's the one problem we're solving. And then the other problem is, we started working on that, and that, if we're going to build the most advanced layer one blockchain ever, there's a bunch of things that other blockchains are doing, choices they're making for some reason we don't know, that is preventing real adoption. And let me just run through a few examples. Like, number one, most blockchains have a proprietary programming language that they make developers learn in order to program smart contracts on their platform. And so whether it's Solidity for Ethereum or Plutus for Cardano, the list goes on and on. We looked at that and said, why can't developers, instead of learning a new language and surmounting an additional hurdle to start adopting blockchain, why can't they just program in whatever languages they know? And so that's how we built Casper. We built it in Rust, but really any language that compiles down to WebAssembly, to WASM bytecode, will be able to run on Casper. So right now, Rust, TypeScript, and we have a Solidity transpiler, but pretty soon the C family of languages, the Java family of languages, Python, etc. Let's make every developer a blockchain developer, is kind of our ethos. Okay. We also saw, other things like, why does the sender always have to pay the gas on blockchain? Like, why are all other blockchains following that model? We can all think of transactions where the receiver should pay the gas, or the sender receiver split the gas, or the DApp or enterprise that's building on the chain pays the transaction fees on behalf of their customers. And so we built that flexibility in. We have something called CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment, which allows contract upgrades on chain. We have weighted key management, which basically allows the smart contract writer to say, this is a big transaction, it's the sale and purchase of a home, and I want to wait till the entire network reaches consensus before finality. So I'm fine with that. I don't mind that extra time. Or there's another enterprise that's doing tons of transactions, and they're okay with 20 or 30% of the network agreeing before reaching finality. So we have that weighted key management built in. And the list goes on and on. There's about 12 or 14 of these real product feature advancements that you'll see with Casper, no one of which is a silver bullet that by itself is going to mean the rest of the world adopts blockchain. But what we've done by solving the layer one trilemma and create all these features, we believe, is built a blockchain that real enterprises would adopt, like real companies, governments, and companies of all sizes, and NGOs of all sizes. Like an enterprise doesn't have to just be a Fortune 1000 company, but they're used to a certain level of professionalism and product features in the Web 2 world that we haven't yet offered in Web 3, and that's what we're offering the industry for the first time.
That's exciting. And really quickly, because I want to dive into those real use cases and also get Neil's feedback on this, because I could tell you were about to say something and I'm interrupting. But
not at all. We're good.
I think the programming language stuff is super important on day one, because Web3 has at least some beginnings of some adoption, DeFi products, all sorts of things built already on Ethereum. And I know a lot of Ethereum developers are looking elsewhere. You mentioned that you can port things over, or I forgot the word you used, sort of.
Compiler.
What was that? The compiler.
Where we can take Ethereum Solidity and essentially bring it over to Casper and Rust for any application.
So, what's that process look like? Is it extremely tough? Because somebody like me. I'm going real basic, and I'm not going to dive into the tech specifically, but I am technical enough to hop into a GitHub, fork some code, maybe launch something that's already built and customize it a little bit for myself. Not that that's the best plan for something like in DeFi, but maybe it's a fun thing that I do for NFTs or goofing around and whatever.
Sure.
I'm not going to launch anything that takes real amounts of money and locks it in myself, because I'm not that guy. Right. But how hard is it for somebody like me to take something that's already built and do it? Is it do you need hardcore technical chops, or have you guys simplified it? Yeah,
Cliff, I can take part of this, and you can add some color. But Alon, ultimately, so from an organizational structure perspective, we have Casper Labs that we're launching the Casper network. Casper Labs is going to primarily provide consulting services to utilize the Casper network. So with the transpiler, if you're an Ethereum application, yeah, of course we're able to provide you access to this, and we're going to hold your hand the whole way through. Especially now, because we're about to launch our network, we're finding specific use cases in industry verticals where we can create case studies and say, hey, we've solved this problem for this particular project or company in this industry, and we can provide solutions accordingly. But ultimately, it's relatively easy to integrate with our network. I mean, I'm talking less than 2 hours of time to even spin up a node and start interacting with our network. But also at the same time, if you have a project or there's something that provides value to the Casper network, we'll provide services. And right now we're doing that at no cost, simply because utilization is the most important part of this entire industry, right? Lowering the barriers to adoption is a key for us to be an integral part of any enterprise situation.
Yeah, the only little part I would add to Neil's great explanation is that for the Ethereum transpiler itself, and mind you, I'm a lawyer turned business guy, so I'm going to give my understanding of what our devs are sharing with us, is that it's not quite hands off, do it for me, or DIY for a project, that we are going to work with. What we've built is a robust starting point, and then we'll be working with projects on tweaking it for them, so that for them eventually it becomes, they just put their smart contracts in Solidity and it will come out in Rust.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's just throwing it out there that every tool I've ever used to port code from one language to another gets you 80-90% of the way there if you're lucky, and then you have to, of course, make some changes, fix some things, and make some adjustments. So
it's definitely syntax, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So and every single piece, every single thing that's written is written differently, right? It's a different developer, different groups of people, different standards, whatever. So even if it's one programming language to another, it's never that cut and dry. So that's really, really exciting, and I'm so before we actually let's dive into the you guys mentioned like real use cases, and I think that for me I'm not living in Casper land, I'm not living in only Ethereum land, I'm not only living in Bitcoin world or Tezos. Like I feel as an outsider, and I'm looking at these things, not exactly an outsider, but participating in all these networks, playing around and getting excited by all this stuff. The way I feel about multiple blockchains and things like that are like multiple programming languages, right? Like there's certain ones that make perfect sense for certain use cases, right? And hopefully a chain like Casper can address a lot of use cases, and I think you guys will, just from what I know. But is there like a specific real world example or use case that on day one will be, really, really one of the best use cases to use Casper for? Or have you guys built for one specific use case? Or what are you guys seeing with sort of the, I don't know if you would call them pilot companies or dApps that are being built on this, or just the initial batch of first dApps building? Because I know a lot of people are building right now on Casper.
Yeah, so Cliff, I'll talk about one use case that I'm very excited about. Then you can talk about the additionals. And so the one use case, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen the new Casper site or Casper.network, but it's IPWE, right? So IPWE is the world's first global patent market. Basically, they combine information and tools, identify, research, understand, and transact in patents. They initially had, I think, over 10,000 patents, and patents in general is a very tricky industry because it's very difficult to identify who actually owns these patents. So one of my favorite use cases and projects that is, they're launched, they're building, they're utilizing the Casper network already, even though we haven't, mainnet isn't even live yet. It's IPWE. They enable traditional transactions, licenses, acquisitions, and ultimately what they're doing is they're decentralizing the IP and patent industry. And they were utilizing, or exploring opportunities to utilize some other networks, but given some of the features on Casper, it made the most sense for them to build on us, and it's one of our most prominent partnerships that I would say today.
We should probably do a talk just specifically about them or that use case, because right now and I know there's more to this, but just an aside is that right now a lot of the talk around NFTs and things like that are related to IP, because a few of the platforms like Mintable is really cool. I've talked to them about them a few times, but what they've done is sort of been able to assign some licensing rights to NFTs. But what's unclear is what happens when that token is transferred. Like if I send Cliff the token, does he now have the IP rights? We never signed any docs. There's nothing. As long as I know there's no legal precedence of me sending a token to someone and they all of a sudden have ownership of something. Yeah. But
Cliff, this is a perfect transition, actually. Could you mention Terra Virtua, talk about our relationship with these guys?
You want me to, or do you want to?
You please go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to give a few more examples of projects. Some we can name, some not yet. Some we're still at MOU stage, and we're not going to be one of these chains that just announces every MOU. We're going to announce when we've got to an MVP, right? And then we're close to launch. But we are working with this company called Terra Virtua. They have a token they're trading. They do digital collectibles. When we first met the team, the CEO took out his phone and held it up to the chair, and all of a sudden this transformer appeared and was like talking to us, and like currently people are paying tens of thousands of dollars for these digital collectibles, which is great, and they have the rights to like the new Godzilla Kong movie and the new Top Gun movie, and so we're going to build some of that on Casper because they're layer one agnostic. But where our conversations are going with them, behind that is NFTs, is a real unique non-fungible token for that digital asset. And what we're going to co-create on Casper is an authentication token, so that when you buy a diamond or a Rolex or whatever it is, you also get a token that comes along with it. And so ideally the whole world adopts a system like this, and it really helps with forgeries, right? If you don't get the token with that object, you might be getting something that's fake, and that's something we can take to major exchange like diamond exchanges, gold exchanges, jewelry, stuff like that. And just to give you other use cases, and this is where I can't name names. We're not quite there yet, but we're talking to with a multi-billion-dollar supply chain company. They do supply chain management for other like huge players in aerospace and automotive and medical device manufacturers. Great to put that all on chain. We're talking to governments already about putting their ID systems, their supply chain, their quasi-government activities like ports on chain. These are all announcements that we'll get to make once we get to that stage. But to answer your question, Alon, about are we picking one industry or not? Like, what's our go-to-market strategy? We thought about this. We're obviously a layer one, and we're multi-purpose like Ethereum, so we're not industry specific. And instead of saying, okay, let's tackle one or two verticals, supply chain or IP or whatever, the way we're taking this approach is, let's find in the first year or two a couple dozen amazing use cases, industry agnostic, and really work hand in hand with them, and then show the world that this is what can be built on blockchain. And then we'll take our learnings with those companies and governments and enterprises, and then go into their verticals and be like, look what your competitors are doing on chain. Don't you want to do the same? So that's kind of our approach. And then the last thing I'd say on this is echoing what Neil said. The real genius in it, because it wasn't neither of our ideas, but our founders of the way this is structured, is Casper Labs, which is the for-profit parent company that we both work at, that our devs, who are the majority of our employees, have been building the Casper network, which is the blockchain. Once we launch the chain, and that's next month, mainnet goes live next month, that's like, we're sending our kid off to college. Like, yeah, she's now not in our hands. She can do whatever she wants out there. Other people are going to build the network. And we're still going to build the network, but what Casper Labs becomes is a professional services consulting firm. And so when someone can build on Casper by themselves, they don't need Casper Labs. There's going to be the CryptoKitties version of Casper, and people are going to hack on it and break shit, and that's great. But when big enterprises want to actually hire experts to potentially build on the network, who would they rather go to but the guys and gals that built it? And we're going to be offering this service for free for a while, for a year, maybe even 2 years, because we're funded. We're going to have a token sale. We'll eventually charge a lot for these enterprises, but what we want to do is work closely with these enterprises to showcase the power of the Casper network. So that's kind of our go-to-market strategy.
And we're adaptable, right? So we can provide private, public hybrid model blockchains as well, too, based on what the enterprise or the business actually needs. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and we're a little over time, but I'm not going. I think if you guys can, I want to go a little longer to so we can hit on what you mentioned on the token sale part really quick. But before we go there, obviously it's going to be this open source launched network. The test net is already out there, right? And so where can people go, like, if we're not the enterprise, if we want to build the CryptoKitties or hack something together and goof around and start learning and playing and building, where can we go for documentation and things like that in the meantime, pre-mainnet launch?
Cliff, go ahead.
Yeah, the two places I would go to is our GitHub. all of our code's open source. A lot of commits are there, and then also our Discord. We have a Casper Telegram channel, but that's more kind of, what about the project and retail crypto folks. But our Discord is really focused on tech and the developer conversation. So yeah, if people want to hack on and enjoy themselves, start at our GitHub and our Discord.
And Discord, you can interact with our core developer team. They're all on there. Our CTO Meta's on there. She's very active. So yeah, I definitely recommend Discord as well.
Yeah, Meta is amazing. She's been on a bunch of our events too, so you can see a lot of the things she's spoken about, and she's pretty great. So I'm sure you'll be in good hands if you go to Discord and you're looking to build something. I actually have some ideas now that I'm thinking about it. Not that I've already hit you guys up with 18,000 ideas over the last 10 years, but so before we finish off, it would be really, really important to hit on, you guys are about a month away from mainnet launch. You're preparing for a token sale on CoinList. Can you guys talk about that? What it means, like when somebody participates on CoinList, are they investing in Casper Labs? Are they buying a network token? Is it an investment? Like, I'd like for everyone to learn, what's next. I'm sure everyone's going to be hearing about Casper over the next month, 2, 3, but it'd be great to set the foundation.
Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah. Sorry, there's an airplane going overhead. I don't know if that's coming through, but yeah. So we're 2.5 years into this project, and we're about to launch mainnet. Super excited about it. The sale on CoinList, really came about because we want our token out there. Like our token it's not a security, it's not an investment. Sure, might it rise in value because there are exchanges where people are trading them? Yes, but the main purpose of the token is to function our network, to reward the validators, the nodes that are running it, and then as small, and our gas fees are going to be really low, small transaction fees between the parties. That's why the token exists. If people end up trading it and making money on it or losing money, that's kind of beyond us. But we need our token out there so people can start powering the network, and people can get enough of these and then start their own node and be a part of it. So that's really the purpose.
And that's key to the decentralization of it, right? Like if only 3 people hold all the tokens and run all the nodes, it's never going to be decentralized.
Right. And so we did have 2 private token sales, but they were really private validator sales, and we had over 115 people and entities participate so that they become the Genesis block at launch. And so it's almost decentralized from the beginning. It really is. But then once the token sale on CoinList tokens are distributed, we're a fully decentralized network at that point. But the CoinList sale has been a long time coming. We've been working with the amazing team at CoinList since October of last year. Super excited. Obviously, it's a very exciting time in crypto to be launching. Much better that it's this March rather than last March. Although I would say, going through a bear market was good for us, right? Like that's when we were building and we didn't have to focus on the crypto market. But yeah, we've structured the CoinList token sale in a way that really fosters a lot of participation. There's 3 options. One that has like a 1-year lockup. Sorry.
Okay, we can hear you.
One that has a 1-year lockup and a 6-month release at the lowest price for those that have a longer horizon until they actually can get their tokens, but want a low price. An option 2 that has a 6-month lockup and a 6-month release at a slightly higher price, and then our freely trading tokens at the highest price. And what we've designed is a way for as many people to participate as possible. But one thing to note, even the freely trading tokens, there's now a CoinList requirement that there's a 40-day holding period until those tokens are actually deposited in the CoinList wallets of those that will participate. So it won't be until right around May 10th that the Casper token, CSPR, will actually be trading. So CoinList sale last week of March, Casper token trading day, May 10th or 11th.
Alon, I also just wanted to clarify, the Casper tokens are held by a not-for-profit Swiss-based association. Ultimately, we have validators, which are members, and they're holding tokens, they're staking, they're contributing towards the network. But yeah, so the token entity is an association. Then we have Casper Labs, and that's birthing the Casper network, like Cliff explained. Just wanted to clarify that.
Cool. So the money raised in the CoinList sale goes to that foundation.
Association, correct? Yeah, similar to a foundation, but it's Swiss-based. Yeah.
So cool. And then people who participate will either get their tokens on May 10th, 11th, or 6 months from then, or a year from then, I think you said.
Yeah, so there's a 12-month lockup followed by a 6-month linear release schedule, or a 6-month lockup followed by a 6-month linear release schedule. And then all of our validator participants who participate in the private sale, they'll join the network at Genesis. They'll be staking their tokens and contributing towards the network, and they're on a 3-month hard lockup followed by a 3-month release schedule.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Super cool, guys. So what before we go, what are the big dates? What's the date of the launch of CoinList? Does that mean that the mainnet basically doesn't really launch until that May 11th date also? Because
No. We're planning on launching the mainnet in late March. Give or take, hardening, testing, penetration testing, making sure everything's secure. So we're planning on launching the network in late March. When the CoinList sale concludes, we'll start trading in May after the 40-day hard lockup required by CoinList. There'll be liquidity in the market, but our plan is to launch mainnet in late March, followed by trading in May.
And how do I transact on the mainnet if I didn't get my tokens yet?
Great question. Cliff, go ahead.
So you can build on it, right? Like, so to transact as a validator, like a node, you would have had to participate in the private sale and be at Genesis. If you want to become a node and you didn't have that opportunity, you're going to have to wait till May.
We also had an incentivized testnet, right? So we had over hundreds of participants that were contributing towards the network at testnet that earned rewards. So they'll also be able to participate as a node operator, utilize that opportunity as well.
And the other way to participate is if you want to build out or build on Casper. One of the things we haven't touched on is that there's something called a developers DAO, which is a fully autonomous third party that we're not in control of, and that actually they're going to do way more things than Casper. But what we've done is we're really a blockchain for developers and entrepreneurs. We've really put our tokens where our mouth is, and other than the tokens that'll be sold to the world, the next largest chunk of tokens, 16% of total supply, we're going to give to the dev DAO, the developers DAO, over 5 years. And they're going to run the process of grants, of giving these tokens away. But they're not just going to give it to anybody. There's going to be an RFP, or a request for proposals process, where people who are either building out the network or building on the network can get tokens to do that. And so that's another way to interact with the network between now and token trading day. Is if you have an idea on how to improve Casper or build on it, reach out to the dev DAO. Neil, do you have the dev DAO URL handy?
Yeah, it's actually 1 second. I think it's Ep.6 DAO. So 1 sec, let's find out. I will gladly share it with you, Alon, and you can share it with the community as well. But yes, it's devxdao.com.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I'll put that in the YouTube description stuff and on all the descriptions as well. Really quickly, somebody asked, will this be interoperable with other chains? I think we sort of discussed that before, but do you guys plan on building any of the bridges or interoperability parts?
Absolutely. I mean, Cliff, go ahead.
No, please. You're right.
Yeah, no, I mean, interoperability is, we're in a nascent industry, right? So understanding, other layer ones and how we can get involved and integrate with them is critical, right? We don't know if there's a specific winner or nor do we need that right now, right? There's this industry is too young for us to be able to decide that. But yeah, absolutely, there's several efforts in place for interoperability, not just with Ethereum, but with other chains as well, and we'll definitely be announcing a few of those situations very soon.
Awesome, very, very cool. I think I just happened to post the other day on Twitter something about, you know, the people against. Actually, it was more about just the only person who loses in interoperability is the person who has a bad product, right? So I think it's really funny when groups are anti, you know, letting people leave their network or want to be very siloed, especially in an industry like ours that's so decentralized. You need to let people choose and let the best products win, right?
Totally.
So I love that. And one quick question, somebody was asking, maybe just really quickly, because I think you guys already answered this question, but on the token sale, the different options in the unlock period, there is the one option where you're unlocked from the day of distribution, right?
Yeah, so there's three options. I see the question that was just asked. Ultimately, you know, the option 3 is the freely trading tokens option, but there's still a 40-day period that CoinList requires for KYC AML before tokens are released. So option 1 is where you have a 12-month hard lockup followed by a 6-month linear release schedule. And then option 2 is a 6-month hard lockup followed by a 6-month linear release schedule. And option 3 is the community sale, where ultimately it's freely trading tokens that are released 40 days after the conclusion of the sale.
And then the difference between the three is the price, right? So the longest lockup and release schedule has the lowest price. The middle, you know, the 6-month lockup has a middle price, 1 cent, 1.5 cents, and 2 cents. And so we're kind of empowering the community to decide, are they willing to pay more and get their token sooner, or do they want to pay less and they're long believers in the project and are willing to wait a little bit longer to get their tokens? It's a choice, and actually it doesn't have to be a choice. Folks can participate in all three if they want.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, guys, before I jump off, I need to remind everybody, and then I'll ask you guys where to go and all that stuff, that we do a crap ton of events at Draper Goren Home. So go to drapergorenhome.com/events. Our next one is actually going to be the Security Token Summit in March, but we have our big event at the end of the year. We're going to do a Global DeFi Summit again. And then aside from me doing this every Friday, join us every Tuesday night. Adam has been killing it and doing an incredible job. He just had the mayor of Miami on the other night. We're working on some other really big guests. It's a lot of fun. So go join Blockchain and Booze on Tuesday nights. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really, really excited for the mainnet launch and for participating in building something on the network. And really excited for you guys and the whole crew. You know, since the last few years of all these talks and building, it's exciting to see things happen. So where I put in the ticker down below, and below I'll have a bunch of links, but there's Casper.network. Is there anywhere else you should send people?
So the public sale is coinlist.co/Casper.
Cool. Well, good luck with that, guys. Thanks everyone for joining. Again, make sure to subscribe everywhere so you're notified next time we go live. I will talk to you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone.